Chapter 21. Charlie slowly stood up as everyone gasped in disbelief. In an instant, the gaze of the entire banquet hall focused on him. "Charlie, what are you doing? Sit down!" Elaine shrieked in horror. Didn't he look at where he was at now? None of the fearsome bosses dared to stand up at a moment like this. But what did this loser aim to steal the limelight right now? Gerald and Kevin exchanged glances and whispered, "Damn, is he really the chairman of Emgrand Group?" Immediately after that, they shook their head earnestly. No way, if he were really the chairman, how could he be scolded by his mother-in-law now? "Loser, what do you think you're doing? Sit down," Harold shouted in an annoyed tone on the stage. Charlie glared at him coldly. Then, ignoring everyone's bewildered and confused glances, he went straight to Doris and whispered in her ear. Doris nodded slightly while listening. The scene made everyone's hearts skip a beat. Doris Young, the vice chairman of Emgrand Group, the famous symbol of beauty in Orus Hill. How did Charlie, the loser of the Wilson family, know her? In fact, from the looks of it, they seemed quite close. After speaking, ignoring the curious gazes again, Charlie stepped out of the hall to look for Claire. As for Doris, she stood up, took the stage and the microphone, and started as everyone stared blankly at her. "Hi, I'm Doris Young. Mr. Charlie Wade bumped into our chairman outside the hall earlier and our chairman passed me a message through him." Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that Charlie was not the chairman. Kevin murmured in disdain, it was just a coincidental encounter. How could he be so shameless to butter up his assistant? He's really hopeless. Gerald shrugged indifferently and smiled. This is what nobody does anyway. Meanwhile, on the stage, Doris glanced at Lady Wilson and had a cold expression on her face. "The chairman has asked me to inform you that Emgrand Group has terminated the collaboration with Wilson Group with immediate effect. The contract is declared void." "What?" A loud shout resonated in the hall in an instant. No one had expected Doris to say such a thing. Everyone was stunned and bewildered by the sudden plot twist. Blood drained from Lady Wilson's face. She dashed towards Doris and urged, "Miss Young, what do you mean by that? Why the sudden decision? Did we do something wrong?" She invited all the esteemed bosses and guests to come to the banquet tonight, hoping to boost their reputation in Orus Hill. If the announcement of the termination of the project was done in such a venue, the Wilson family would be despised and trampled in society. Doris said firmly, "Originally, this collaboration was established due to our chairman's recognition of Miss Claire. Out of nowhere, you took it upon yourself to appoint some average Joe to be in charge of the project. Sorry, we cannot accept such a ridiculous arrangement." Right after that, Doris dropped the microphone and walked out of the hall. Lady Wilson crouched on the stage, her face as pale as a sheet of paper. Never did she anticipate that her little wits would throw the extremely rare opportunity out the window. If only she knew they would end up like this, she wouldn't have traded Claire's place with Harold as the director even if someone held her at gunpoint. Harold, on the other hand, was at a loss too. What happened? It seemed that Doris was targeting him, but he didn't remember ever offending her in any way. He went to his grandmother and asked desperately, "Grandma, the appointment of the director has been announced. You won't regret your decision, right?" Lady Wilson struggled to her feet. She raised her hand and gave him a slap in the face while scolding furiously, "You bastard! How could you still think about the position at a time like this? Hurry, come with me and let's find Claire right now." Chapter 22. After Charlie ran out the door, he realized that Claire didn't go far. She was crouching in the corner of a pillar, sobbing in grievance. He approached slowly, took his coat off, draped it on Claire and said, "Dear, don't be sad. The director of Wilson Group is just a mediocre position, you can do better than that." "No, you don't understand. If I become the director, my parents will be able to stand upright in the family again. How could Grandma go back on her word?" Claire whimpered dejectedly. Charlie continued, "Who knows? Maybe they'll come begging you to become the director. Look at you with your crybaby face, you won't be pretty when you go on stage later." "No way, it's impossible. Grandma has already made the announcement, there's no turning back. You go ahead, get back inside. Let me be alone." At this moment, Lady Wilson and Harold ran out of the hall too. The old lady was huffing and puffing after running, with a large crowd of busy bodies behind her to watch the drama unfold. Harold saw Charlie and Claire the minute he stepped outside. He hurried forward, looked down at Claire whose face was covered in tears, and blurred anxiously, "Claire, hurry up and pursue Miss Young. Ask her not to terminate our contract." Claire stared at him in a daze. Terminate our contract? Why? Harold growled indignantly, stop pretending. It must be you who had instructed Miss Young to embarrass me in front of everyone. If you don't settle this, I won't let you go. Slap. Lady Wilson slapped Harold again and chided angrily. How could you talk to your sister like that, you bastard? She is the director of our Wilson Group. Harold stomped anxiously. Grandma, didn't you say that you want me to be the director? If it wasn't for you brainwashing me, why would I have changed my mind suddenly? If you continue to behave like this, get out of the Wilson family. Harold was extremely outraged after being slapped twice, but this was not the moment for him to burst in fury. He could only swallow his irritation. Lady Wilson turned to Claire and persuaded her. Claire, please, I beg you. You are now the director of the Wilson family, please explain it to Miss Young. Otherwise, we're completely ruined. Claire looked at Charlie in confusion. Charlie shrugged and said, I told you they'd come and beg you to be the director, and you didn't believe me. See, your makeup is smeared now. Claire blushed timidly. She wiped her tears before saying, then I'll try to contact Emgrand. She took out her phone and called Doris. All eyes were on her right now. After a short while, her call was answered. She started, hello, Miss Young. My grandmother would like me to explain to you that I'll be promoted to the director of Wilson Group and also in charge of the project with Emgrand Group. I hope you can give us another chance. Doris said with a chuckle, of course, if you're the director and the person in charge of the project, then there's no problem, we can proceed. But if another person is appointed for the job, everything will be off the table. Miss Young. Thank you so much. Claire felt puzzled and bewildered about the whole thing. From the beginning, it seemed that Emgrand Group was there to help her entirely, which was bizarrely unusual. Doris said with a smile, it's all my chairman's idea. Perhaps he'll explain it to you personally in the near future. Claire was even more bewildered. Who was the chairman anyway? She had never met him, but why did he help her everywhere he could? So, could you please return to the hall again? Claire asked nervously. Apparently, Doris had left the hall because she was irritated by the family. It was a bit forceful and shameful to invite her back to the banquet. Unexpectedly, Doris agreed decisively. Soon, Doris's car returned to the hotel entrance that sent a shockwave across the crowd. At this moment, everyone gasped with awe and fear as they looked at Claire. Chapter 23. Everyone returned to their seats while Lady Wilson walked on stage hand in hand with Claire. She gave a gentle and sweet smile as she said, I'm really sorry for what happened earlier, I made a mistake. Actually, Claire is the outstanding descendant of our Wilson family. Thanks to her, we are able to score such a lucrative contract with Emgrand Group. She has made great efforts for such an amazing achievement. Standing next to them, Doris glanced at the old lady contemptuously. She waved her hand, gesturing at her to stop talking, and said, allow me to correct something. Miss Claire has not only made great efforts for this project but she has accomplished it by her own efforts entirely. It has nothing to do with anyone. She sounded very impolite and rude, but everyone was accustomed to it. With Emgrand Group's status in the city, even if Doris slapped Lady Wilson right there and then, she dared not say anything. Lady Wilson nodded quickly. Yes, Miss Young is absolutely right. Claire deserves all the credit for her efforts. From now on, she will be the director of the Wilson Group. She will be fully in charge of the project between Wilson Group and Emgrand Group. Eventually Doris smiled and shook hands with Claire. I look forward to our collaboration. Claire was still in a trance and she managed to nod in confusion. Loud applause resonated across the hall. Everyone looked at Claire with enthusiasm and admiration. What kind of background was this woman related to? How could she make the Emgrand Group so passionate about her? Claire was equally confused and curious. She turned to look at Charlie and his voice appeared in her mind again. This scene was exactly the same as Charlie illustrated earlier. Grandma had appointed her as the director, which was supposed to be the role belonging to her to begin with. Claire was still in a state of bewilderment even after the banquet ended and returning home. Recalling what Charlie had said earlier, she started to feel a little odd about his recent behavior. He seemed to have changed a little over the past few days. There seemed to be something different about him. There were a lot of things she couldn't understand as if he was shrouded in a misty fog. Overnight, Claire's name spread like wildfire in Orus Hill. Everyone knew that the Wilson family had an outstanding descendant who could attract Emgrand Group's attention to help her relentlessly. With her around, it's just a matter of time for the Wilson family to revive. Early the next morning, Claire woke up early and hurried to the company in an energetic mode. Today was her first day as director and she hoped she could do the best she could and get this thing completed. As for Charlie, after getting up, he started doing household chores as usual. When he was about to go to the market to buy the ingredients for lunch, he suddenly received a call from Elaine, his mother-in-law. As soon as he answered the call, Elaine's anxious voice resonated loudly. "Charlie, I demand you come to Pinnacle Avenue within 10 minutes. If you don't, just wait until I get home." She hung up the phone without waiting for him to say anything. Charlie was confused. His mother-in-law had disappeared early in the morning. Based on her voice on the phone, she sounded as if something urgent had happened. Although Charlie was very disgusted with her, he didn't dare disobey her. After packing up his bag, he rushed out, took a cab, and went to Pinnacle Avenue. As soon as he got out of the car he saw a group of seniors surrounded a closed insurance company door menacingly. His mother-in-law was standing at the front of the crowd, holding a banner in her hands and shouting furiously, "Damn you, Axel! Liar! We want our rights! Return my money!" Charlie hurried forward and urged, "Mom, why did you call me? What's going on?" As he was talking, the loud protest was shouted right into his ears. The seniors were shouting their lungs out and they were so loud that he wondered if his eardrums were still functioning. Elaine pulled Charlie over to let him take her place, and commanded, "Come on, shout these for me. I've been shouting for the whole morning and my throat hurts." Chapter 24. Charlie was totally clueless. He could only imitate the elders around him and protest. As they were chanting, he asked the uncle beside him to understand what was going on. It turned out that this Axel insurance company was offering some insurance packages with extremely high returns. This group of elders had been attracted by the high returns that they became the company's clients by buying a lot of insurance products under the name of the company. According to their agreement, today was supposed to be the day they received their dividends, but when these people came to claim their money, they found out that the door was locked tight and only a few employees were left at the door to block them using lame excuses. Eventually, they realized that they were victims of a fraudulent investing scam. No wonder Elaine had urged him to come and help her to protest. Charlie massaged his forehead in agitation. He asked Elaine, "Mom, how much did you buy?" Elaine said frantically, "They said that we can get a lot of dividends from the insurance investment, so I was brainwashed and bought their products with all our savings." Charlie gaped in extreme shock. "What? You used all your savings to buy participating policies?" Elaine was so ashamed by his remarks that she turned angry and shouted, "Do you think you're the only one who has a mouth? Why do you talk so loud? Do you think I'm not shameful enough? Why don't you use the speaker to announce it?" Still furious, she continued to taunt Charlie. "If you were even a wee bit successful, do you think I'd have bought these fraudulent insurance products? If I don't buy some insurance for my old days, do you think I can expect you to take care of me?" This useless man couldn't support his own family financially. How dare he be a shit-stirrer here? Then, she growled at Charlie, "I warn you, continue to chant, don't you dare stop for a moment." Charlie pursed his lips and nodded. "Okay, Mom." At this moment, several ladies came over and eyed Charlie before asking, "Elaine, is that your son-in-law?" Then, they looked at Charlie's outfit again and mocked, "Oh my goodness, why does he look so pathetic? He's not even half as good as my son-in-law. Yes, look at his outfit, it's so outdated and worn out. Even I dress better than him." The old ladies gathered around him and exchanged ear-piercing mockery. It was very annoying. However, Charlie didn't mind at all. They were just a bunch of old ladies who had lost their entire savings. There was no need for him to stoop to their level. Elaine was very angry and irritated. The more she listened to the teasing, the more uncomfortable she was as she looked at Charlie, so she blurted, "Just wait and see. I'll let my daughter divorce him in a few days and let her marry a rich husband." Charlie smirked and thought to himself, "A rich husband? Even if you combine all the rich sons in Orus Hill, they aren't even worth the cost of my belt buckle." Elaine was very worried right now. She couldn't depend on Charlie the loser and the most he could do was chant at the protest. She needed someone capable to help her in getting back the money. Unfortunately, Wendell, who had been pursuing her daughter, had gone bankrupt now. Otherwise, she could ask him for help. Oh yes. She suddenly remembered Kevin, Gerald's cousin whom she met at the banquet yesterday. She recalled how attentive he was towards her daughter and assumed that the man had some feelings for her. Although the White family was not as prestigious as the Jones family, they were still considered a prominent family in the city. He might have a way to help her. Luckily, Kevin left a name card yesterday. She retrieved her phone and dialed Kevin's number. Chapter 25. The call was answered quickly. Elaine hurriedly said, "Hello, is it, Kevin? Hi, I'm Claire's mother." Ever since meeting Claire at the banquet, her beauty knocked him off his feet. He couldn't get her out of his mind. He was frustrated as to how he was supposed to approach Claire when coincidentally, her mother called him. He figured that Elaine must be in some kind of trouble and of course, he would not miss the chance to woo her. Thus, he put up a sincere tone and said, "Auntie, are you in any trouble?" "Well, there is something I need you to help me with," Elaine hurriedly said. "Kevin, some old friends and I have bought some participating policies from an insurance company called Axel and we literally used all our money to buy it. However, the company isn't paying us our dividends now and they don't even want to return us our money. Could you find a way to help me get the money back, please?" Kevin was delighted upon hearing it, figuring that it was time for him to perform. Hence, he said confidently, "Auntie, don't worry, I'll come to you right now. I'll help you solve the problem." Elaine was over the moon. "Oh my goodness. Thank you so much." After ending the call, she glared at Charlie again and huffed in great dismay. "Some people are just as useless as a heap of rubbish, we can't count on him. What else can he do besides chanting?" Charlie sneered. His mother-in-law was indeed snobbish and blind. She asked Kevin to help, huh? The company had defrauded them of at least tens of millions or even more. They must have some kind of a special background for them to be so bold to have deceived them so much money. It was even possible that a big boss in the mafia world was behind all this. How could Kevin ask these ferocious scammers to split the money out? The White family's influence was average at best. After Emgrand Group had terminated all the projects with them, their power had shrunk even more. It was basically impossible for the White family to interfere with financial fraud on such a large scale. Frankly, he could just call Isaac of Shangri-La and the problem would be solved immediately. After all, he was the Wade family's representative in Orus Hill. All the businessmen and the people from the good and bad sides had to give him away due to his power. However, his mother-in-law is annoyingly abominable. Since she believed in Kevin, then Kevin should take the stage and do whatever he planned to do. Some people had a bright smile on their faces as they saw Elaine making the call. They quickly gathered around to ask if she had found a powerful man to help them. Elaine curled her lips into a proud grin and announced, "Don't worry everyone. I've asked Mr. White to help us. He is very influential and capable, I'm sure he can get the money back easily." Someone shrieked in surprise, "Wow, Mr. White? Elaine, you really are awesome to have found such a powerful man." "Yes. Mr. White must have significant networks and connections. It must be a piece of cake for him to settle our problem, right? Elaine, since you know such a competent young man, why don't you marry your daughter to him? Why this loser instead?" Elaine glared at Charlie in disdain and said coldly, "This loser will be kicked out of our family in no time." Charlie didn't say a word. He was waiting for Kevin to come and see how disastrous he was going to end up. Soon, a black Porsche slowly stopped in front of everyone. A handsome young man in a suit stepped out of the car. Here came Kevin White. The seniors squeaked in awe, "Wow, look at him, handsome and smart looking. I wonder which family is lucky enough to have him as their son-in-law." Chapter 26. "Yes. If my daughter can marry him, I can die in peace." "Phew, stop dreaming. Even if you are dead, he will not like your daughter." As soon as Elaine saw him, she rushed to his side and said earnestly, "Hey, Kevin, you're here finally. I was so anxious waiting for you." Indeed, it was Kevin. Kevin said with a smile, "Auntie, I'm very sorry to have kept you waiting." "Oh no, Kevin, you're too kind. I think it had taken you only 10 minutes to get here, you came so fast. As soon as I heard that you're in trouble, I drove over quickly. I even ran some red lights on the way here." Elaine looked very smug, but asked with concern, "Will it get you into trouble for running the red lights?" "No," Kevin said indifferently, "the guys in the traffic department are all my acquaintances. A phone call is all I need to settle the traffic tickets." Kevin cleared his throat and started again, "Anyway, back to your business. How much have you been scammed out of in total?" Elaine sighed dejectedly. "More than $1 million. They promised that I can get $200,000 in dividends this month, but now, I can't even get the capital fund back." Kevin nodded and said firmly, "Okay, don't worry, leave it to me. I'll definitely help you get all the money back." Then, he saw Charlie standing behind Elaine and his face darkened slightly. He didn't expect to see the loser here. Ever since he met Claire, he had the urge to get on intimate terms with her. The desire grew stronger when he heard from Gerald that she might still be a virgin. Therefore, he couldn't help but sneer when he saw the loser husband of Claire's. He managed a deliberate smirk and said, "Hey, Charlie, I didn't know you were here too. Do you have a way to help Aunt get back the money? Do you want to give it a try first? I don't want you to blame me for stealing your spotlight." Elaine interjected hastily, "Oh, stop the nonsense. What can he do, anyway? The most he can help with is to open his mouth and chant the slogans. Kevin, leave him alone." Kevin nodded and mocked, "Since Charlie is not capable of helping you, let me try." Charlie smiled slightly and said half-heartedly, "Good luck, Mr. White." Kevin laughed disdainfully. At this time, the elders surrounded Elaine and said, "Elaine, we're all your friends. Could you ask this handsome man to help us too, please? It's our hard-earned money." Elaine said arrogantly, "Oh, it's not up to me to say. Kevin is here to help me, he doesn't know any of you." The crowd turned to Kevin and started begging him, "Mr. White, please be merciful, please help us." Kevin found the crowd annoying, but he could see that Elaine was a cheap and greedy person, so he said with a casual smile, "Since you are Auntie Elaine's friends, of course I can help you." Everyone was thrilled to hear him say that. However, Kevin continued in a pompous voice, "But I'm helping you because of Auntie Elaine. So, for the money I get back for you, you must pay Auntie Elaine a 10% commission. Is it acceptable?" The crowd cheered, "No problem. It's much better to get 90% of our money back than to get nothing at all." Elaine was over the moon upon hearing that. The amount of money that these friends were scammed added up to tens of millions. If Kevin could get the money back, she would earn $1 million from the commission alone. Chapter 27. Just as Elaine was extremely thrilled, Kevin announced loudly, "Uncles and aunties, relax, I'll go speak to them now. Please wait for my good news." Elaine felt that with Kevin's presence here, they were the most invincible of them all, so she blurted excitedly, "Kevin, I'll go with you." Charlie quickly interjected, "Mom, I think you'd better stay away from it. If Kevin can't solve the problem, you might get into trouble." "Bah!" Elaine growled angrily. "How dare you doubt Kevin's abilities, you loser." The other seniors expected that Kevin could help them get back their money. Now that Charlie was singing a different tune, they were irked and irritated by him. Facing the resentful glare and murmur, Charlie said flatly, "Mom, it's better for you to wait here. It's best to be a bystander." Elaine found his voice disgusting and she immediately cursed, "Shut your stinky mouth. This is not a place for you to speak." Pompousness and arrogance were written all over Kevin's face. He sneered sarcastically, "You're not good at anything but you're so easily jealous. Do you think I'm like you, a loser who just stands here and chants?" Seeing that his mother-in-law wouldn't listen to him, Charlie shrugged and said lightly, "Okay then, let's wait for your good news, Mr. White." Charlie despised his mother-in-law, Elaine, a lot. She was too snobbish and ignorant, and oftentimes, she was blinded by the superficial appearances. To put it plainly, she was an old lady with more hair than wit. Today's incident seemed to be nothing more than a common fraud dispute, but with a little foresight, one would know that it involved a much bigger sinister plot. The condescending Elaine was too stubborn to listen to him and insisted on treading the line herself. By all means, it would be better for her to learn her own lesson then. Of course, Elaine didn't know that Charlie was genuinely concerned about her. She glared at him fiercely before turning to Kevin and said apologetically, "Kevin, please don't take any of the loser's words seriously. I believe in you." Kevin laughed triumphantly and said, "No worries, Auntie, I won't stoop down to the same level as the wimp." Then, he turned towards the building and said in a confident tone, "Auntie, let's go." "All right." Kevin led Elaine through the crowd and strode towards the entrance of Axel Insurance. As soon as they were at the door, he immediately shouted loudly to the employees who were blocking the entrance, "Listen to me, go and tell your boss to refund the money to them immediately. Otherwise, I'll come back with my team of lawyers and security guards and I'll crash down your door, apprehending you and your boss." Elaine added, "Do you hear him, you bunch of nitwits? I have someone to back us up now. If you don't want to repay us, Mr. White will send you all to prison." The young employee who stood at the front was a little anxious. He hurriedly said, "I'm sorry, I'm just a security guard, I'm not responsible for the business." Kevin said coldly, "Call your boss then. Tell him, I'm Kevin White of the White Family Inn. Orrus Hill. Ask him to come and deals with me personally, don't say that I didn't warn him." Kevin was full of arrogance when he spoke. Although the White family wasn't the top family in Orus Hill, they were considered middle class on the social ladder here. Meanwhile, this person was nothing but a boss of a mediocre fraudulent company. How could he stay still after hearing his name? The young employee was a little shaken despite not knowing his true background. He quickly called his boss. Chapter 28. Meanwhile, in the Axel Insurance chairman's office, the owner, Axel Jordan, was serving a man in his 40s in a respectable manner. His face was radiant with a wide smile. He retrieved a bank card from the drawer and handed it to the man with respect and said, "Don Albert, there are $30 million in this card and the PIN number is your birthday. This is the bonus for you, please check." The middle-aged man was dressed in a smart suit. His face was quite rough and haggard, but his predator-like eyes were as sharp as a lion. If there were other people present, they would definitely recognize the man immediately. He was Don Albert Rhodes. Everyone in Orus Hill knew that Albert was the mafia boss of the underworld and no one dared to mess with him. Don Albert looked at Axel and said with a satisfied smile, "Axie, not bad. You're pretty tactful, I'm impressed." Axel said in an anxious tone, "Don Albert, what do we do about the old folks who are protesting out there?" Albert said flatly, "They're just a bunch of old nitwits, don't mind them. If they don't disperse later, I'll let some of my underlings teach them a lesson." Axel breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly said, "Thank you, Don Albert." Albert laughed and said, "Next time, just go all out on this kind of business that can bring in a lot of money. I'll cover for you if anything happens." Axel was extremely delighted. He bowed his head earnestly and said, "Don Albert, thank you. With your encouragement, I'll continue to work harder. Let's make a fortune together." Axel didn't have a profound background in Orus Hill, but he was good at one thing. His brain was packed with sinister plots. He knew of his shortcomings in keeping the large sum of money from the financial scams, so he had asked for Don Albert's assistance by giving him part of the money and seeking his protection. He was certain that Don Albert was a reliable protection he could find as the Don was dominating the underworld in Orus Hill. Also, because of Don Albert's support, he could go on with his fraudulent business without any concerns. Just when Axel was thrilled about having Don Albert by his side, his employee called and said frantically, "Boss, we have a problem. Some guy who claims to be Kevin White is urging us to return the money. Otherwise, he will throw you to jail." "Damn." Axel frowned and hurriedly said to Albert, "Don, there is a guy downstairs who claims himself to be from the White family. He is leading the protesting folks to create trouble. He said that he is very powerful in Orus Hill and demands that we pay them back all the money, or else he'd throw us in jail." Axel deliberately added fuel to the fire to irritate Albert. Then, he bent over and pleaded, "Don, the White family is quite influential in Orus Hill. I can't really go against them if they get involved in this matter. Please help me get me out of trouble." "The White family of Orus Hill?" Albert snorted in disdain and said, "In my eyes, the tiny White family is nothing but a speck of dust. Even the head of their family must bow down and salute when they see me. How dare their youngsters come to provoke me? They're looking for trouble themselves." Albert placed the bank card in his pocket and said coldly, "Let's go. I'm curious to see which bastard wants the money from me." Chapter 29. At this moment, Kevin was standing in front of Axel Insurance's main door with a proud face. He knew that today was the best opportunity for him to show off himself in front of Claire's mother. He must seize the moment to prove his worth. If he could win her mother's heart, she would be his in no time. When the time came, he could finally be with Claire Wilson, the most beautiful woman in Orus Hill. He was in jitters as he thought of it. Hence, he announced in a loud voice, "Uncles and aunties, don't worry. The boss will refund everyone." Everyone cheered with joy and excitement upon hearing his statement. Wide smiles were plastered on their faces. Everyone but Charlie, who looked at Kevin with a sneer. That dude was too full of himself right now, he wouldn't even know how he would end up being later. Just when Kevin held his chin high and enjoyed the cheers, someone suddenly pushed open Axel Insurance's door from the inside. Later, Axel and a middle-aged man in a smart suit emerged themselves at the door. The middle-aged man had an overwhelming aura. Despite his age, he was Don Albert. Behind him were a group of studly men who followed him closely. They were his personal bodyguards and they looked very fearsome and strong. Don Albert was too overwhelming in society that despite his infamous reputation, no one had actually seen him before. Hence, no one, including Kevin, recognized him. They only recognized Axel Jordan, the owner of Axel Insurance. Suddenly, loud gasps echoed across the crowd in an instant. Damn, Kevin really managed to call for Mr. Jordan. He is really amazing. Yes, it's all thanks to Elaine that we can get our money back. Elaine, Kevin is definitely the most perfect son-in-law one could wish for. Elaine immersed herself in the flattery of her friends. Kevin had helped her to boost her dignity in front of her friends today. She wore a wide smile on her face. Her eyes as she looked at Kevin were nothing but satisfied and proud. At this moment, Kevin walked forward triumphantly like an arrogant hyena. He couldn't recognize Axel nor Albert, but seeing that Axel was quite respectful towards Albert, he mistook Albert for the boss. Thus, he looked at Albert and said proudly, "Are you the boss of Axel Insurance?" With an ambiguous smile on his face, Albert said, "Nope, I'm not the boss. I'm just helping him with some stuff, but you can tell me anything." Kevin arched his eyebrows in acknowledgement and smiled disdainfully. "So you're nothing but a sidekick. You're not worthy of talking to me. Get out of my way and ask your boss to come." Charlie shook his head and looked at Kevin as if he was looking at an imbecile clown. The man in the suit not only looked fearsome, but he also had several bodyguards with him. He was obviously some tough character. Instead, Kevin was digging his own grave by treating the man so poorly. The oblivious Elaine added with a sneer, "Kevin, don't waste your time with the worthless sidekick. The man next to him is the owner." Axel, on the other hand, gaping extreme shock. This Kevin and the old woman were so blatantly bold. How dare they insult Don Albert as a worthless sidekick and even order him to go away? Apparently, they didn't know how to spell the word, die. Who in the entire Aarhus Hill dared to insult Don Albert so fearlessly? Even if there were, they would have been thrown into the ocean by the outraged Don Albert. Chapter 30. Just as Kevin finished his so-called intimidating threat, a studly man behind Don Albert abruptly stepped forward, grabbed Kevin by his hair, and slapped him multiple times on his face. "God damn it! How dare you raise your voice at Don Albert? Do you wish to die?" Then, he grabbed Elaine and slapped her across the face, and shouted, "Damn you old coot! How dare you insult Don Albert? I'll tear that stinky mouth off your face." Boom! It felt as if Kevin and Elaine were struck by lightning. What? The man in a suit in front of them was the fearsome Don Albert of Aarhus Hill? Yet they had ridiculed him ignorantly just now. Soon, blood drained their face, looking as pale as two sheets of paper. Cold sweat covered their forehead and their bodies shook uncontrollably in fear. Kevin was quick to react. He threw himself on the floor, knelt in front of Don Albert, and cried as he pleaded, "Don, I'm sorry, it's my bad. Sorry for not recognizing you, sorry for insulting you. I have nothing to do with these damn old folks and their money. Please, please spare my life." He knelt on the floor, slapping himself and knocking his head to the floor, wailing and pleading loudly. Never did he expect that the person supporting Axel Insurance was actually the infamous Don Albert. Not even his family dared to go up against such a prominent figure, let alone him. He regretted his action very much right now. His intention was simply to be on Claire's mother's good side so that he would have the chance to be in touch with Claire. Who would have thought that he'd offended the fearsome Don Albert before he could even make his wish come true? If his father knew about this, he would beat him to death. The old folks were shocked as the unbelievable scene unfolded in front of their eyes. They had put high expectations on Kevin to get their money back, but no one had expected to see the young man kneel on the ground and plead to the man in a suit like a petty peasant. As for Elaine, who was extremely cocky earlier, she stood like a statue after being slapped multiple times on her face. Albert snorted in dismay and said to his men, "Since their mouth is so filthy, take turns and slap him 10,000 times. Don't stop before you finish slapping them 10,000 times." Kevin was extremely frightened by the command. The slaps would definitely kill him. Don Albert's man pointed at the miserable Elaine and asked, "Boss, what about her?" Albert looked at her in disgust and said flatly, "Same." Elaine's legs went jelly. She collapsed on the floor, her body shaking violently. Would she still be alive after offending Don Albert? The sturdy men stood up. Some grabbed Kevin while the others grabbed Elaine, and everyone was in their position to begin the slapping punishment. Charlie, on the other hand, was watching the scene coldly among the frightened crowd. He didn't want to intervene when his mother-in-law was being beaten in the first place. She had always been so snobbish and stubborn, so a lesson or two came in handy to knock some sense into her. However, if he let Don Albert's menu slap her 10,000 times, she would definitely be seriously injured by the punishment if it didn't kill her. How would his wife feel then? If Elaine was in danger, Claire would definitely be very devastated. He figured that he couldn't just stay put now. Just when a strong man raised his arm and was about to swing them across Elaine's wrinkled face, Charlie quickly marched forward and grabbed his wrist. Chapter 31. Elaine crouched on the floor, her body trembling violently. She closed her eyes tightly, waiting to be slapped by the muscular man, but the slap never came as she had expected. She opened her eyes in confusion and was shocked. Charlie, her good-for-nothing son-in-law, came out and held the man's wrist. She felt that her mind had gone kaput for the moment. She couldn't process the thing that's happening right now. Why was the useless Charlie so brave out of sudden? Don Albert couldn't believe either that there's someone dared to stand up for the damn old lady at a moment like this. He growled coldly, "Who are you? Do you have a death wish?" Charlie smiled faintly. "You are Don Albert, aren't you? You can beat the hell out of that bastard, but do me a favor and don't touch my mother-in-law." A layer of dark gloom shaded Albert's face. "This old fart is your mother-in-law? Who do you think you are for me to do you a favor?" Albert began to huff in wrath when he said it. He was highly respected by many people in Orus Hill, but he suffered immeasurable embarrassment today. First, there was a foolish dude who called himself Kevin White yelling in front of him, then came the disgusting old coot that shouted along with him. Next, this young dude came out of nowhere and made such an absurd demand. Did they really think that he, Don Albert Rhodes, was such a minion that they could push him around like a ragdoll? His face flushed with anger as he shouted to his men, "Beat the hell out of this snobbish thing." Charlie still wore the faint smile on his face and said, "Not so fast. Let me make a call first and I'll let him talk to you." He retrieved his phone and called Isaac Cameron, the general manager of Shangri-La. Once the call was answered, the man on the other end of the line said respectfully, "Young master, what can I do for you?" Charlie said in a casual tone, "Do you know a man by the name of Albert Rhodes, aka Don Albert?" Isaac laughed sheepishly and said, "Yes, I know him. They all say that he's the boss of the underworld, but to me, he is nothing but a small-time gangster." Then, he continued, "He's been trying to curry favor with me when he knew that I work for the Wade family by asking me out to dinner and whatnot, but I've been ignoring him." "Why? Do you know him?" Charlie said indifferently, "Oh, I see. Well, he is trying to kill me." A loud thump was audible over the phone. The remark obviously irritated Isaac. "Damn it. That bastard.
He's wishing for his own death by provoking you."
"Where are you now? I'll send someone over right away to cripple that bastard."
"I'll pass the phone over to him, you can tell him yourself."
Then, Charlie handed the phone to Albert and said, "Pick it up." Albert frowned curiously. What was going on? From the looks of it, he didn't seem like he was acting. Did he really have a remarkable background that he was oblivious of? Albert eyed Charlie from head to toe suspiciously. Charlie didn't wear anything branded and his attire didn't seem to even cost $500. Even his phone was of a cheap brand. What was he capable of? What kind of person could he find as his support? Despite the disdain, Albert took the phone reflexively and asked in a tentative tone, "Hi, I'm Don Albert, who are you? How dare you stand up for this man?" Isaac on the phone screamed his lungs out, "Albert Rhodes. You fucking bastard, are you out of your fucking mind? How dare you provoke my young master? Believe it or not, I will bury your entire family of 25 alive tonight." Chapter 32. As soon as the voice resonated into Don Albert's ear, his brain processed the information rapidly and registered the voice as Isaac Cameron, the man who he had been trying to curry favor with. Did he just say that he had offended his young master? Could it be this man in front of him? Moreover, Isaac knew that there were 25 members in his whole family. Did he already research his background thoroughly? Isaac Cameron was the spokesperson of the Wade family in Orus Hill. The Wade family's influence and power are so enormous and strong that destroying him would be as easy as stomping an ant. Albert's legs went jelly and he trembled in fear as he listened to Isaac's angry voice. He stuttered, "Mr. Cameron, please calm down. I didn't know, it was just a misunderstanding, the young master and I." "Shut up," Isaac shouted, "our young master's identity is highly confidential. If you leak it out even a little, I swear I'll wipe you and your family clean from the world." Albert's body shook vigorously, shaking more severely than a patient with Parkinson's. He hurriedly said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Cameron, I'm terribly sorry. I'll handle it accordingly." Mr. Cameron alone was enough for him to shit his pants, let alone the Wade family in Eastcliff. They were godlike existence that was so far beyond his level he could only look up to from afar, but now, he had the nerve to directly offend the young master of the Wade family. When the thought ran through his mind, Albert focused his gaze on Charlie and stuttered in a panic, "Mr. Wade, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that she's your mother-in-law. It's my mistake, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." Immediately after, his legs turned to jelly and knelt in front of Charlie. Everyone present gaping in extreme shock as they watched Don Albert kneel down before Charlie and apologize to him. Even Mr. White was a piece of garbage in Albert's eyes, but this young man could make the almighty Don Albert kneel before him. Who was he, really? Albert's men were equally shocked. Don Albert was the king of the underworld. What background did the young man have that could make Don Albert get down on his knees? By the way, Charlie didn't intend to take Albert's life. His men were hitting his mother-in-law, not him. Besides, honestly speaking, Charlie felt that watching his mother-in-law getting her ass kicked was so freaking awesome. Thus, he said to Albert, "I can forgive you, but you have to return every penny of the money that you scammed her, including the interest." Albert sucked in a quick breath, surprised that Charlie would forgive him. He hurriedly bowed his head and blurred, "Don't worry, I'll do it right away." Next, he turned to Axel and shouted, "What are you still standing here for? Move, hurry and get it done. I'll break your leg if you don't start moving." Elaine was stunned as she watched the whole scene unfold in front of her eyes. Was that her hopeless son-in-law? Did he literally just make the infamous Don Albert kneel to him? For an instant, Elaine felt that Charlie had suddenly become bigger and stronger than he used to be. In fact, he became unpredictable. Kevin, who had suffered several slaps, was also dumbfounded. Wasn't Charlie the notorious loser in the family? How did he make Don Albert so afraid of him? At this moment, Axel sprinted towards them carrying a black suitcase, his face as pale as a ghost. He went to Elaine and said nervously, "Auntie, your capital fund is 1.3 million, and the dividend we promised you is $200,000, making up a total of $1.5 million. Here is $2 million, the extra $500,000 as a token of apology from us. Please accept it." Elaine was dumbstruck and she froze like a statue. Since when did her useless son-in-law have such an amazing influence? Not only did she get her money back including the dividends, but on top of that, they were giving her an extra $500,000. Chapter 33. Elaine was over the moon and a little disbelieving when she heard Axel's statement. Her money had increased from 1.3 million to 2 million. She asked, astonished, "Are you sure? Are you really giving me 2 million? Axel nodded hurriedly. "Of course. It's all yours." "Wow, that's wonderful." Elaine shrieked in excitement. Seeing Elaine not only getting back her money, but also the additional $500,000, the rest of the elders were tiptoeing and jittery. They felt that since Elaine's money was refunded, they should also receive the same treatment as well, shouldn't they? Hence, some of them started, "Mr. Jordan, what about our money?" Axel turned to Albert, exasperated. Albert was heavy-hearted to surrender all the money he had pocketed, but he was up against the Wade family who he couldn't afford to pick a fight with. He might even lose his life. Hence, he blurted, "Just refund them all. For Mr. Wade's sake, they'll get back their capital and the dividends." The crowd cheered delightfully. Suddenly, Charlie's cold voice sounded. "Don Albert, what do you mean by, for my sake? I have nothing to do with these people. Are you trying to blackmail me?" Albert was taken aback. "Mr. Wade, what do you mean? I'm sorry, I don't get it. What I mean is that these people's money has nothing to do with me."
It's totally up to you if you want to return their money, but if you dare say something like returning their money for my sake, don't blame me for falling out on you right now.
These old coots had been taking Elaine's side and taunting him just now, so why would he help them ask for their money now? On the contrary, not only would he not help them get their money back, but it was also a reminder to Albert that if he dared to give these seniors their money back, he was going up against his will. Of course, Albert read his mind. He nodded earnestly and said, "Okay, Mr. Wade, I understand." He turned to Axel and stated, "Mr. Wade and his mother-in-law are our only concern. Ignore the rest of them." Ha! The seniors who were still in an ecstatic mode earlier suddenly gaped and stunned in shock. Some started to wail and cry loudly. Some even begged for Charlie's mercy, but he turned a deaf ear to them. Didn't any of these rude seniors remember how they had insulted him just now? How dare they come to beg for his help now that they witnessed how respectful Don Albert was towards him? "Go to hell, all of you." Seeing the noisy seniors pestering Charlie, Albert screamed indignantly, "Shut the fuck up. All of you. Who the hell dares to say one more word and irritate Mr. Wade, I'll kill them." Suddenly, the noise quieted down and the seniors were as quiet as a church mouse. Albert looked at the shocked Kevin and asked, "Mr. Wade, is this Mr. White your friend?" Charlie looked askance at Kevin, and Kevin quickly pleaded when their eyes met, "Charlie, Charlie. Please help me. Tell Don Albert that we're buddies. Please." Charlie snorted indifferently and said, "I don't know this man. You can proceed to do whatever you want to do to him, let him go after you've had enough." Albert nodded knowingly and commanded his men, "Damn it, beat the crap out of him. This son of a bitch is such an eyesore." Kevin wailed in horror, "Charlie. I'm sorry, I'm terribly sorry, please help me. Please." Chapter 34. Charlie glared at him coldly and muttered, "I don't have any disputes nor any connections with you, but you kept making fun of me and taunting me, and now you want me to help you? Dream on." Kevin collapsed and wailed, "Charlie, I'm really sorry, please help me." Looking at Charlie's displeased expression, Albert shouted to his men, "Damn it, you fools. What are you waiting for it? Get your hands on him now." His bodyguards were startled and shocked. Then, they swiftly grabbed Kevin's neck and hair, and started beating the crap out of him. Soon, blood flooded Kevin's mouth and a few of his teeth were broken, but Albert's bodyguards showed no signs of stopping. Every slap they swung towards Kevin's face was fast and hard. Albert turned to Charlie and asked with a flattering smile, "Mr. Wade, are you satisfied with our work?" Charlie nodded casually. "Very good. Okay, that's it, I have to go now." Albert handed his name card to Charlie respectfully and said, "Mr. Wade, this is my number. Please call if you have any business to settle, I'll always be just a call away." Charlie nodded slightly and put the card into his pocket. He then turned to Elaine and said, "Mom, it's getting late now, let's go home." Although Elaine's face was still burning from the slaps earlier, she smiled gleefully as she glimpsed at the suitcase and thought about the extra $700,000 that she had earned. Her eyes were filled with pride too when she looked at her son-in-law. He was truly amazing. Charlie picked up the suitcase and was about to leave with Elaine when the seniors gathered in front of Charlie and said in an earnest tone, "Hey, Charlie, it's my fault for barking up the wrong tree. I didn't know you were so powerful, you're such a brilliant and promising young man." "Yes, Charlie, look at you, smart and handsome, you're the role model of the youngsters nowadays. My son-in-law is nothing compared to you. May I ask if you can help us to negotiate with Mr. Jordan to return our money, please? It's our hard-earned money." Charlie frowned in annoyance and said coldly, "Why should I help you? You all sounded so cocky and pompous just now. If you can't get your money back today, go ask your own son-in-law to help." Then, he turned in a huff and left. All the seniors were sighing dejectedly, very regretful upon Charlie's harsh statement. They regretted teasing and taunting Charlie. Great. The only chance for them to get their money back was thrown out of the window.
Upon this thought, some slapped themselves twice on the face in agony, some crouched on the floor in a daze, while others rolled around wailing hysterically.
The money was all they had and now, it was all gone. However, that was all they could do for now. They only had their blabbering mouths to blame, and also not having an amazing son-in-law like Charlie. On the way home, Elaine smiled coyly and asked Charlie, "Charlie, how do you know Don Albert? Why is he so polite towards you?" Charlie replied in a casual tone, "No, I don't know him. Who am I to know someone like him? I just called a friend who is powerful enough to make Axel refund the money." Elaine was a little disappointed when she heard it. She thought that Charlie possessed some extraordinary influence that she wasn't aware of, but in the end, he had asked someone to help. The disappointment extinguished the enthusiastic fire that was burning inside her. Fortunately, though, she got her money back with an extra $700,000. This outcome had improved her prejudice towards Charlie in some way. She started, "Charlie, I hope you can keep a secret for me about what happened today and not tell anyone. I'm old, but I have dignity. Okay?" Charlie smiled weakly and agreed. "Okay, Mom, I understand." Chapter 35. After settling Elaine's problem, Elaine and Charlie parted ways. Hugging the suitcase happily like a child holding a lollipop, Elaine went to the bank to make a deposit while Charlie went home. Upon entering the house, Charlie saw Claire's shoes in the hallway, so he knew that she had returned and went straight to their bedroom. As soon as he entered the room, he saw his wife just hanging up the phone, her face painted with surprise and excitement. He asked curiously, "Dear, who is it on the phone?" Claire shrieked excitedly, "It's my bestie, Lorene. Do you remember her?" "Yes, I do," Charlie nodded and continued, "she used to study in Orus Hill and was very close to you." In fact, if I recall correctly, she is the daughter of the wealthy Thomas family in Eastcliff, isn't she? Yes, Claire said. Lorraine's family is quite prominent in Eastcliff. Charlie smiled and asked, so what is it about? Is she coming to Orus Hill for a visit? Not just for a visit, she's coming to work here. Charlie frowned, confused. She is the daughter of a prominent family in Eastcliff.
Why doesn't she work for her family's company but come to work here instead?
Claire shrugged. I don't know either. She told me that she is going to start working for Emgrand Group. As for why she has come all the way to Emgrand, I'm not sure. Charlie nodded in acknowledgement, but there was a thought running through his mind. Although the Thomas family was not on par with the Wade family, they have a strong foundation in Eastcliff. Lorraine has no excuse to ditch her family business and come to Orus Hill to work with Emgrand. Does she have another hidden agenda that I'm not aware of? Skeptical thoughts filled Charlie's mind and he hadn't had a clue for the moment, so all he could do for now was to wait until Lorraine joined Emgrand Group and let Doris investigate her background and motives. Meanwhile, Claire patted her forehead as if an abrupt thought struck her head and said, "Oh yes, Charlie, I have a meeting with Emgrand Group tomorrow. I don't think I can make it to the airport. Could you pick up Lorraine, please? Find a place for lunch too." Charlie nodded. "All right, I'll make some arrangements tomorrow. Find a nicer place while you're at it and don't mind the expenses. Here, take my card." She was grabbing her purse and was about to hand it to him when Charlie hurriedly stopped her. "Nah, it's okay. I have a friend who runs quite a decent restaurant, let me arrange for it." Charlie took out his phone and was about to send a text message to Isaac in Shangri-La, asking him to reserve a table for him. On second thought, Shangri-La was a surprise for his dear wife, so it would be better to entertain Lorraine in another venue. Hence, he sent the message to the next person in his mind, Don Albert. "I want to host a dinner to entertain a friend. Help me arrange for it at a high-end hotel, excluding Shangri-La." Soon, he received a reply from Albert. "Mr. Wade, I own a place called Heaven Springs. It is one of the most exclusive restaurants in Orus Hill that is comparable to Shangri-La. He'll reserve the best diamond suite tomorrow as well as the best feast for you and your guest. I'm honored to have you in my restaurant." Charlie simply replied with an, "Okay." The next day, Claire spent the entire day at the Emgrand Group headquarters, dealing and arranging matters related to the project and their collaboration. Charlie called Doris and asked her about Lorraine's job appointment. Doris was genuinely surprised that Charlie knew about this. She told him that Lorraine had applied for an administrative director post, which was a middle-level management position. After reviewing her resume, they found that she was an excellent candidate for the job. Hence, they decided to hire her and her first day's work would be in a few days' time. Chapter 36. Charlie ordered her to keep an eye on Lorraine after she started working and to always report to him if there were any abnormalities. After talking to Doris, Charlie took a taxi to the airport to pick Lorraine up. When he was at the airport, Charlie disembarked the taxi and was about to go to the arrival hall when a Mercedes-Benz G-Class braked abruptly and stopped in front of him. Harold, Claire's cousin, stretched his head out of the car window and frowned when he saw Charlie. "Why are you here?" "I'm here to pick Claire's friend up." "Why are you here?" Charlie frowned too when he saw the familiar faces sitting in the car besides Harold. There were Gerald and Wendy. Harold sneered. "Do you mean Miss Thomas? We're here to entertain her. You're nothing but redundant, get lost." Charlie snorted indifferently and said, "You get lost." Thus, Charlie ignored them and walked directly into the airport's arrival hall. Harold's face turned into an ugly shade of red and he was about to swear at Charlie when Wendy tugged his arms hurriedly and said, "Hey, Miss Thomas will be here soon. Grandma reminded you to leave a good impression on her, remember? If you can make her your wife, your status in our family will be unmatched. Just leave the loser alone for now." Harold gaped in surprise, processing his sister's sense of urgency. He had almost forgotten the main reason he was here today. In fact, welcoming Lorraine to the city was the second agenda. His most important duty was to leave a good impression on her and tackle her heart. The Thomas family was prominent and influential in Eastcliff. If he could be with her, his status would skyrocket and the Wilson family would have a great boost in their reputation. Hence, he endured his displeasure with Charlie. They hurriedly got out of the car and rushed to the arrival hall. Right at this moment, a conspicuous young and elegant lady stood among the crowd. Her long maroon hair cascaded on her back like a waterfall and she wore a white dress that outlined her exquisite body. She was wearing sunglasses, but that couldn't conceal her alluring beauty. Her skin was as smooth and white as a porcelain china doll with her fiery red lips. Upon a closer look, her facial features and physique were by no means worse than Claire's, and in fact, they had their own merits in terms of their beauty standards. Everyone who waited outside the arrival hall focused their gazes on her for a stunning moment. Harold was equally dumbfounded by the sight. Even Gerald, who was there as a plus one, was amazed by her beauty. He couldn't help but sigh. She really lives up to the reputation of the daughter of Eastcliffe's prominent family. Her beauty and temperament are extraordinary. At this time as well, Lorene saw them among the crowd, so she quickly strode across the people as she waved at them. Harold, Wendy, and also Charlie. Hey, long time no see. Harold felt a fiery flame slowly burst inside his heart. He uttered swiftly, hey, Lorene, long time no see. You've become more beautiful now. Charlie smiled politely and added, hi, it's been a while. Harold interjected, Lorene, I specifically booked a suite at the best hotel in Orus Hill knowing that you're coming, to welcome you to our city. Come, let's go. Lorene glanced at Charlie before she said to Harold apologetically, Harold, I'm so sorry. I've agreed to Claire and Charlie's invitation in advance. Let's take a rain check on the drink, shall we? I'll stay in Orus Hill for a long time. There are plenty of chances for us to meet. A layer of irritating wrath slowly built in Harold's heart, replacing the passionate flame earlier. Charlie the loser had come to ruin his important moment on such a crucial day. He was the worst. Hence, he said in a sarcastic tone, Lorene, I've booked a suite at Heaven Springs, the most famous restaurant in Orus Hill, just for you. By the way, the suite I reserved is the Golden Suite with a minimum spending of $300,000. He glared at Charlie contemptuously and said with a vicious grin, I wonder which restaurant did my lowly cousin-in-law book. It would be very disrespectful and insolent if he'd simply booked a mediocre place. Chapter 37. Charlie was a little surprised when he heard that Harold had also booked a suite at Heaven Springs. What a coincidence. Didn't Don Albert say that he owned Heaven Springs? He had prepared a suite for him in the restaurant as well, hadn't he? Meanwhile, Gerald gaped in shock. Wow, Harold, did you actually manage to make a reservation for the Golden Suite in Heaven Springs? Not everyone can do it. Harold laughed triumphantly. Honestly speaking, apart from the Diamond Suite that's really out of my reach, other suites are a piece of cake. Despite his pompous statement, it was nothing but Harold's bragging. Truth be told, in order to make a reservation for the Golden Suite, Lady Wilson herself had requested a lot of favors from many people to book it. Lorene had heard about Heaven Springs even in Eastcliff. She hurriedly said, we're all friends, you don't have to make such extravagant arrangements just for me. Harold uttered coyly, oh no, you are our distinguished guest, how could I treat you like an ordinary friend? He then turned to Charlie and asked, hey, I wonder which restaurant you booked. Charlie said flatly, well, what a coincidence, I made a reservation at Heaven Springs too. Ha ha ha. Harold laughed out loud. Charlie, aren't you worried about choking yourself for bragging so senselessly? I doubt you can even book the lowest suite at Heaven Springs with your status. Please stop your nonsense here.
Charlie smiled indifferently.
Even if I'm bragging, what does it have to do with you? I'm not inviting you to dinner. Why do you worry so much about me? Harold snarled in disdain, I don't think you can even walk through the door. Lorene, who witnessed the whole scene, couldn't bear to see Charlie being targeted. She was aware of Charlie's status in the Wilson family. He was financially and emotionally discriminated against in the family due to his status. It was quite unrealistic for him to book a suite at the top restaurant in town for her sake. She figured that Charlie had deliberately told the lie because he wanted to defend his dignity and she didn't want him to be too embarrassed, so she quickly said, hey, let's just stop the argument, shall we? Since both of you have made the reservation at the same place, why don't we go there together? Harold glared at Charlie and huffed, all right, for Lorene's sake, I'll let you have a free meal today and let you see what a high-end restaurant looks like. Charlie simply smirked and ignored his sarcastic remark. The infamous Don Albert would kneel down when he saw him. What kind of amazing effect would his restaurant give him anyway? It's a pity that the snobbish Harold was blinded by his cockiness. Heaven Springs was a quaint and classic European-style restaurant. The interior decoration and design were full of exquisite classical charm and exclusively expensive, and even the signboard at the door was made of high-quality yellow rosewood. Charlie couldn't help but gape in marvel as he looked at the decorations in the restaurant. He didn't expect to see such luxurious settings and ambiance in Albert's restaurant, and he contemplated bringing Claire to try it out one day. Lorene looked around and exclaimed, I've heard about Heaven Springs back in Eastcliff, and sure enough, it lives up to its reputation." Harold said with a smile, "Lorene, I have to bring you to the best place for your visit here, of course." Then, he glanced at Charlie mockingly. "Unlike someone here. If not for your sake, he'd probably never have the chance to visit such an upscale restaurant in his entire lifetime." Chapter 38. Wendy asked with a coy smile, "Charlie, didn't you also make a reservation here?" "Which suite? Bring us to check it out." Charlie said flatly, "I didn't think about which suite to reserve, to be frank. I just sent a text message to their boss and asked him to arrange it for me. I'll check the message now, give me a minute." Harold sneered disdainfully, "Shut your mouth. Do you know who the boss here is? It's the famous Don Albert Rhodes. How dare you talk such bullshit here? Careful, if he hears you, he will squeeze you to death with his fingertips." Charlie ignored their heinous remarks and proceeded to check his message on the phone. "He said he reserved the Diamond Suite for me." Harold laughed instantly. "Ha ha ha. Diamond Suite? Charlie, don't make me laugh, will you? Do you know who can enter the Diamond Suite? No more than 10 people in the whole Orus Hill. You're nothing but a fart." Lorene stayed silent in the midst of the commotion, although a thought was slowly brewing in her mind. She didn't expect that Charlie would be such a sore loser. Who did he think he really is to be offered the privilege of dining in the Diamond Suite? She used to think that the man had no money, no power, and was a little hopeless, but she never knew that he was such a vain person. She's utterly disappointed in him. Charlie simply smiled at their senile attacks. In his eyes, these people were nothing but snobbish fools and he didn't have to lower himself to their level. Gerald started too. "Charlie, even my dad is not qualified to dine in the Diamond Suite."
You're so full of shit.
Wendy added after him, "Gerald, that kind of loser is not even qualified to eat leftovers from the Diamond Suite, let alone dine there." Charlie glanced at Gerald and managed a cold sneer.
You stupid dog. Don Albert had just beat the crap out of your cousin yesterday, who gave you the courage to dine in his restaurant today.
With that flowing in his mind, he asked, "Gerald, I heard that something happened to your cousin brother yesterday, is it true?" Gerald frowned curiously. "How do you know about it?" He then continued without waiting for Charlie's answer. "He was assaulted yesterday and is still in a coma. We're investigating who the assailants are and will skin them alive for revenge. Do you have any idea?" Charlie shook his head and played dumb. "I don't know what happened, I just heard that something had happened to him, that's all." "Ha!" Gerald huffed in dismay, "don't you dare ridicule the White family behind our back. If I hear about it again, I'll kill you." Charlie ignored him completely. Sure enough, one big foolish family. It hadn't come to their attention that Albert was the one who had caused his cousin's injury. It was getting interesting. At this moment, a man in a black suit marched towards them and stood in front of Charlie. Looking at the familiar face, Charlie realized that he was one of Albert's bodyguards. The man recognized Charlie instantly. He wore an eager and polite smile on his face and almost bowed before him when Charlie hurriedly shook his head at him. The man froze for a while. Thinking that Mr. Wade liked to keep his identity low profile, he said directly, "Hi, your suite is ready, please follow me." Harold was stunned. He hadn't even mentioned his arrival to the ringmaster yet and someone had come to greet him in person. Since when did the Golden Suite diners of the Heaven Springs get such an attentive and personalized service? Frankly, it was pretty awesome. Gerald gaped in astonishment. "Harold, you're quite incredible. He seems to be a guy working directly under Don Albert, and it looks like the Don appreciates you very much. Do you know him personally? I haven't heard you talk about it, you low-key man." Harold laughed delightedly and said with a smug face, "There's no need to show off my friendship with him, it's better to keep a low profile." Ha 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 ha. Chapter 39. Lorene was taken aback in astonishment and bewilderment. She didn't expect Harold to be so well connected in Orus Hill. He was so much more reliable as compared to Charlie. She contemplated that it would be more convenient for her to get close to Harold for her daily routine. The man in a black suit escorted the group respectful to the door of the Diamond Suite. He took out a bill, handed it to Charlie directly, and said softly, "Sir, please sign here." The Diamond Suite was especially reserved for Charlie and his signature was needed for confirmation. Charlie smiled and took the pen and paper, but before he could sign his name, Harold's loud shriek echoed. "Damn it! Put the pen down." Harold marched forward with a gloomy face. He snatched the pen and paper from Charlie's hands, signed his name quickly, and yelled at Charlie, "You shameless rat. Do you really have no fucking idea who reserved the room? Who do you think you are to sign your name here?" The man in black was taken aback by Harold's abrupt and rude interference. He looked at Charlie and gave him a questioning look as if to ask him if he needed help to teach the bastard a lesson right there. Charlie shook his head lightly. Never mind, let him sign it if he wants to sign it so badly. Charlie didn't want to turn the situation awkward in front of Lorene. She was his wife's best friend, after all. Then, they entered the room and everyone took a seat. Harold ushered Lorene to sit in the main position of the table, while Charlie sat alone in the corner. Lorene was the only one who spoke to him from time to time. Soon, exquisite dishes and wine were presented by the waiters, one course at a time. All the dishes used very fine and luxurious quality ingredients. Even the top-quality abalone and the Australian lobster could only be served as side dishes. Even the wine was a century-old fine wine worth $100,000 a bottle. Coming from a wealthy family, Lorene was shocked by the extravagant spread of the meal. Gerald said with an envious sigh, "Harold, how much is your budget for the meal?" Harold replied pompously, $300,000. Gerald gaped in surprise. "Are you sure? This is not your usual price range, even the bottles of wine alone exceed your budget." Harold had a casual smile on his face, but inside, his heart was thumping nervously. He suddenly felt something was amiss. As he recalled how the man in black treated him outside the room, he couldn't help but wonder if Don Albert was giving him special treatment. But he didn't even know him. Lorene's beautiful eyes flickered in awe. She glanced at Harold and said, "Thank you, Harold." Harold's confused thought was wiped away by the warmth Lorene's words brought him. He smiled widely and said, "You're welcome, it's my pleasure." Then, he turned to Charlie and asked with a coy smile, "Charlie, I bet you've never eaten such good food in your life, right?" Charlie smirked sarcastically. "Who gave you the confidence to be so cocky?" Harold growled in disdain, "You have the honor of dining with me and your filthy mouth is still so stubborn. Damn it, I dare you, if you've ever eaten such fine food in the past, you can make my head a ball and kick it." Charlie simply smiled. The days he lived when he was a child were so extravagant that ordinary people couldn't even imagine. In the Wade family, these dishes were just meals for the servants. Looking at Charlie's arrogance, Wendy huffed indignantly. "Charlie, what is that attitude, you loser?
Believe it or not, I'll kick you out of the room now.
We're giving you a free meal and is this how you treat us? You fucking loser." However, right at this moment, the door of the suite was kicked open harshly and a hoarse and fierce voice resonated through the suite. "Where did you idiots come from? Who the hell let you in this room?" Suddenly, a pudgy man stood at the door. He was in an Armani suit with a big gold chain around his neck and he had a centipede-like scar on his face that spread from the corner of his eyes to his chin. The man grabbed the bill in one hand and a bat in the other, his face as fierce as a lion's. Immediately after that, a dozen burly men with scarred tattoos barged into the room and lined up next to him, surrounding the table. Everyone was extremely startled by the scene. What was going on? The leader was Bill the Bear, Don Albert's right-hand man. He had worked for Don Albert in his early years and had earned an infamous reputation in Orus Hill. Don Albert had informed him today that the Diamond Suite was specially reserved for the extremely noble Mr. Wade and made sure he made the proper arrangements for him. Yet, when he inspected the guests of the suites, he found out that a bugger named Harold Wilson had signed the bill for the Diamond Suite. He was very furious and scared when he discovered it. He was furious because of the damn Harold who had come out of nowhere and occupied the suite he had prepared for the esteemed guest. Chapter 40. On the other hand, he was scared because there was only one set of the extravagant banquet menu ready in the Diamond Suite and it had already been served to these people. What should he do when the real honorable guests were here? Harold rose to his feet and shouted in dismay, "What are you doing? I reserved this suite. Who do you think you are to create trouble here?" Bill pointed at Harold and asked, "You're Harold Wilson?" Harold nodded and said proudly, "Yes, I am." Bill commanded coldly, "Bring him to me." Two sturdy men immediately pulled Harold out of his seat and dragged him away. "What do you think you're doing? Let me go." "Fuck, shut up." One man kicked Harold's knee and he knelt directly in front of Bill as he shrieked in pain. Bill eyed Harold from head to toe with his cold and dagger-like glare, making him shiver like a scaredy cat. Slap. The signature bill was thrown directly at Harold's head. Bill shouted loudly, "Who gave you the right to use this room?" Harold cleared his throat to compose himself and said, "It's a misunderstanding. I made a reservation at this golden suite in advance. I've even paid the $300,000 deposit." Gerald interjected, "What are you doing? Harold booked the room. Do you not have rules here?" Bill spat. He slapped Harold across his cheek and growled, "Golden Sweet? Hello? This is the motherfucking Diamond Suite. It is not for you, bastard." Everyone was stunned when his voice echoed across the room. Diamond Suite?
No wonder the room was so luxuriously designed and even the dishes and wines were exclusive.
As it turned out, it was not the Golden Suite at all. Cold sweat drenched Gerald's forehead. The Diamond Suite was so exclusive and he was not even qualified to enter, let alone dine in it. Wendy said hastily, "Harold, didn't you say that you know Don Albert? Hurry, explain to them." Harold huffed dejectedly. "Shut up. How would I know Don Albert?" "But, didn't you just say?" Lorene glanced at the siblings coldly as their conversation took place, realizing that Harold was nothing but a cocky liar. She was a little disappointed in him suddenly. Bill sneered cruelly and said, "How dare you mention Don Albert's name, you hopeless fucker. You have a death wish, don't you?" He straightened his body and ordered his men, "Grab him. I want to teach him a lesson." Harold was held down to the ground, unable to move even an inch. In the blink of an eye, Bill grabbed the bat and smashed it down directly. "Arg! My hand! My hand!" Harold was screaming frantically, his body drenched by his own sweat. Even his pants were wet at an embarrassing spot. He passed out in a shameful manner. Watching the horrifying scene, Gerald and Wendy were as pale as 2 sheets of paper, their hearts thumping vigorously. Harold, who had still been so full of himself earlier, was beaten back to his normal self in an instant.
They were scared of the consequences that would befall them.
Lorene was equally terrified by the incident and her whole body was shaking violently. She hid behind Charlie and muttered, "What do we do? Will they kill us?" Charlie patted Lorene on her shoulder to offer some comfort and said, "Don't worry. I'm here to protect you. No one will touch you." Lorene looked at Charlie gratefully. Although she was certain that Charlie could not solve the problem, his words did work wonders to calm her nervous heart. Meanwhile, Bill kicked Harold, who had fainted on the floor like a log, and cursed, "What a coward." He turned his head and stared at Gerald. "And you said that we don't have rules here, didn't you? Come here, you fucker."